Hello and welcome to Southern Summers and Northern Winters. How are you this week, Mark?
I'm fine, Anders. How are you? Another week gone by, hasn't it?
Yeah, we didn't get to record because the week after Willow joined us, I was just too busy. But that's how life is sometimes.
These things happen, don't they?
Yeah. I read that you had 39 degrees Celsius this weekend. Is that true?
Yes, I was away. I was trying to do some sightseeing, and it was a little bit warm, I must say. I was in a town called Bendigo, which is about 400 kilometres from home here. So We dropped Willow off at the airport last Friday, and we kept going from there because it was only 150 kilometres from there. So
okay.
Been to Bendigo maybe only twice in my life for some strange reason, and found it to be a really interesting town, actually. So I'm not quite sure why I haven't been there more, but I'm hoping to go back again. So,
what's special about Bendigo?
It's got a long history associated with gold mining and Federation of Victoria and things like that. So it was highly populated around the 1850s by Chinese, Australians, Englishmen, people from all over the world rushed to the Bendigo area to try and strike it rich in gold. The area around Bendigo had more gold taken out of it than anywhere else in Australia in the 1800s. So it was a very popular area, and hence there's a lot of historical, I would say maybe Victorian-era buildings still in Bendigo that are used today that were built in the late 1800s, which is pretty old for Australia.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So it was quite nice. So we went to a few places up there. They've got a couple of old gold mines. So we went to this one gold mine, and it's a tourist gold mine. So we just had a look around. You could pay for a tour and go underground if you wanted to. But what I did like is attached to it, they had a historical tramway. There used to be trams in Bendigo going everywhere, but they were wheeled back in the 1970s. And so they run this one route around town, which is called the Bendigo Historic Tramway. So you can jump on this tram. Only costs $15 Australian, so about €10. And it's sort of like a hop-on, hop-off bus. So you can jump on and off the tram.
Okay.
All day long. So yeah, it was quite good. What else is there? A giant stupa from a giant Buddhist temple, one of the biggest in the world, is located in a paddock just out of Bendigo. Quite strange, but it was
something you wouldn't expect there. But no,
it was really nice. Actually, I went in and it felt really peaceful. I don't know, but yeah, it just did. It felt nice and peaceful inside and calm. Because I guess that's what Buddhism's all about. It's about helping people and things like that. Whereas some of our other religions could probably learn off some of their principles, but hey,
that's nice, true. That's something I really like, because one thing I really enjoy when traveling is to go into religious places, because as you mentioned, there's this calmness, this gigantic peace. It's almost otherworldly, and I know this may sound a little superstitious, or I don't know, but it's something that you feel this is greater than just you. This is something that was maybe created over centuries. I really enjoy that, and as you say, this is just peaceful and something that I guess we can all use in this day and age, can't we? Just a couple of minutes reflection.
We certainly can, religions like that, where it's all about, helping others and being peaceful and calm in your life and things like that. I think, other religions around the world, I won't mention them, could certainly learn a thing or two from them sort of philosophies, I would think.
Yeah, the thing is, religion is. I mean, there are many ways. This is like a topic that could really go off in many directions. But my opinion is, my belief is that, religion is something that clever people created over centuries in order to explain things that they otherwise probably couldn't explain. Now we have science to explain many of the natural occurrences, but previously, 1,000 years ago, you would use storytelling and religion. And I think it's where both you and I are from in the Western world, religion is sort of considered like a private thing. Certainly here in Germany, we have an official Catholic religion here in the southern parts of Germany, but basically it's your own thing. It's private.
It is.
But basically, in many countries where religion is really an integrated part of the culture, like much more so than here in the Western world, there tends to be discussions, let's just put it like that, and conflicts, and that's just sad.
Well, there is. I thought you said before religion was created to exploit things, not explain things.
Yeah, well, exploit as well, because some old. Oftentimes old men, they found a way to control the masses through religion, didn't they?
Some old men still controlling the masses, isn't there, these days? So.
Yeah. So speaking of which, here in Europe, we're very much concerned about the Pope because he's very ill.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they can expect. He's 88, so, he's probably... Yeah.
That's
that age. He's probably at that age where we might see some white smoke in the next couple of weeks.
I think so. I think so. Yeah, we usually, I guess, popes. I don't know if it's written somewhere that they have to be old before they're even elected, but I don't know.
They all seem to be old all the time, don't they?
Yeah. Anyways. Religion is something that, no matter where you travel, you should certainly always be careful and respectful.
Yeah, definitely.
But I enjoy going into these religious places, but particularly Buddhistic temples, like you mentioned. There were lots in Thailand. I enjoyed that. When you go into a room where the height to the ceiling is just like, I don't know, 20 meters, 25 meters. Yep. It just adds a certain gravitas, doesn't it? It's just...
It does, very much so. And this, obviously, they call it a stupa. I don't know if that's a name for the church that they have for that religion, or it's just... but inside, it's just it was a big square room with a number of giant Buddha statues or, gods that are related to that religion and things like that. And look, I did. I don't feel much religiously, but I felt really calm and contented standing in there. So it was quite nice.
That's what it's supposed to. I'm not particularly religious either, but it's just there is something I get in a reflective mind when I go in. There are many large churches here in Munich. You've probably been to a few of those, and it's nice. It's just nice to go in there and just sit down and reflect. You have to remember, in a Catholic church, you have to take off your cap or your hat when you go in as a man. You are not allowed to. Apparently, because I wear a hat all the time when I'm out. And apparently the hand of God is supposed to be able to touch you.
Touch your head, is he?
Yeah.
He can't take our hat off and touch our head with the other hand.
No. Out of respect for God, you take off your hat. However, ladies are allowed to wear a scarf.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways.
He doesn't want to touch their neck. So, okay.
Yeah. So, but how big is the city you mentioned? I've already forgotten the name again.
Bendigo. It's 150,000.
Oh, that's fairly big.
That's the fourth biggest city in Victoria. So I'm just trying to figure out. I didn't actually look. I assume obviously Melbourne's the biggest. I would assume Geelong is probably the second biggest, and then I would think Ballarat, and Bendigo, which would be 3 and 4. So there's not really many big inland cities in Victoria, but yeah, it had 150,000 people, so it was definitely a fair sized city anyway by Australian standards.
You would expect a certain sort of infrastructure or mass public transportation services. Yeah,
plenty of buses and stuff floating around, and lots of shops and pubs and restaurants and hotels. We stayed at this hotel. This was quite interesting. We stayed at a Best Western hotel just on the edge of town, maybe 3 kilometres from the city, and it was a pretty hot day on Saturday. It was like 37, and when we left, there was a few people sitting around the pool drinking beers and stuff, and I don't know, but things must have got rowdy later on because we were in our hotel room, and next minute we hear someone yell out, "Get on the ground now!" And I stick my head out the window, and it's the police. So,
oh no!
So someone had been playing up. There was a bit of yelling and screaming going on, and so went on for about an hour. There was about 5 policemen walking around. So I don't know whether they got taken away in the end or what happened, but yeah, it was an interesting time. So I was having a bit of a peek out the window and around the door to see what was some
people letting off some steam there.
Yeah, I would say so. Maybe a bit too much sun and a bit too much alcohol on a hot day. May have caused.
What's your advice? Speaking of that,
memories or moments.
What's your advice there? Because I am alcohol in general. I enjoy my occasional beer and stuff, but when in the sun, I usually do not drink any alcohol, and also on airplanes. I don't know what it is, but I tend to get unwell when I drink alcohol on an airplane.
Look, I used to. Maybe I used to drink a lot. Actually, the first time I flew overseas, I drank a lot of alcohol on a plane I was on, and found myself in the toilet throwing up as I was circling London for the first time.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
This was back in the days where alcohol was pretty much free pour back then, and you could just keep hitting the button and someone would bring you a drink. And this was actually on a Gruta, Indonesia back in 1999. You could smoke ciggies as well, so you could sit up the back drinking copious amounts of scotch. I did with this Irish guy and the South African guy I met, and so pretty much all the way from Bangkok to London, we sat there drinking scotch and smoking ciggies in the back of the plane until it all became
that would be unheard of today.
So it was it's quite a fond memory that I still have. But these days I don't drink a lot on a plane. Mainly, one of the reasons I really don't drink a lot on the plane, I like trying foreign beers, but the beer's never cold, like literally, because it's in the trolley. And I find it really hard to drink warm beer, so I stay away from the beer. Sometimes I might have one glass of red if there's something, in the meal that I like, but not many airlines that now offer you a scotch or a vodka or anything like that. Most of them are just, beer, red or white wine, and that's it. I think the last airline I flew on was Singapore that actually offered, scotch, or they were making actually Singapore Slings, cocktail airline named after the same thing. So they were busy making them on board. That was in 2023. But other than that, you very rarely find any airlines that are pouring scotch and vodka or anything like that.
No,
so I think it's just a beer if you're lucky.
When you fly first class, sometimes you will get a champagne or something. I haven't flown first class in ages, but I can take that like a welcome glass of something, sparkling wine. But apart from that, it's just I'm not really. I don't get airsick often, but if there are some turbulence, and I don't want to risk it, to be honest. Because alcohol will certainly enhance that unwell feeling for me. If my stomach is sort of uneasy, a little bit on edge, then alcohol certainly won't help. So for me, it's just a Coke, and that's it. It's
for some reason I drink. I like apple juice when I'm on a plane. I don't know why. I don't drink apple juice at home. I don't know whether it's sweetness of it, or something to do with being dehydrated on a plane. But as for alcohol, I think the older you get, the less you drink in general. Anyway,
yeah, that's true. That is actually true. That is actually true.
Like I don't drink anywhere near as much as I did, 10 years ago. Like some weeks I wouldn't even have a drink, like these days. Whereas once upon a time I used to come home from work and, probably have a beer every night or, or something like that. But not so much anymore. And even when I go out now, I find myself ordering wine more than anything.
Yeah, that's true. It's I've been thinking the same thing, because here at home, my wife stopped drinking alcohol for a couple of years ago. Actually, she only drinks non-alcoholic sparkling wine and cider and all these things. Or sparkling tea is another thing that I've
got to say that I don't understand. I don't understand the whole non-alcoholic thing. Like, I don't know. It's not. I just prefer to drink Coke or something.
Me too.
Or lemonade. I know it's popular these days, but
we've tried several alcohol-free, non-alcoholic beers, and they are all very sweet and not don't really taste like beer. However, there's a Munich brewery, Augustiner. They have a new alcohol-free beer that's I can't taste the difference.
Okay.
Honestly. So that's really encouraging. If they have somehow managed to make the taste pretty similar to normal beer, and there's no alcohol in it. So that's encouraging. That's really good, because then I prefer my beer cold, just like you. And so as long as it's cold, we should be fine there. So. I just can't say that I really like beer, but I can't love beer enough that I'll drink it when it hasn't got any alcohol in it. No, I agree with you.
It's just the thing. I don't. There's other drinks I'd prefer to drink. When I line up non-alcoholic options, look, it's all good. It's everyone to their own. And
absolutely,
some people really like the taste of beer. Like I find I drink more beer in the summer, like when it's hot. Like I really like beer on a hot day. Like if it's hot outside, nothing as good as a really cold beer. But in the winter when the weather's cold, I'm not so much a beer person. I'd prefer to drink scotch or wine. But one thing about beer makes me really tired these days. The older I get, like if I have 2 beers, I'll be sitting there and I'll be yawning my head off. Like I don't know why. Like I don't know what's in it that makes me tired. But I could have 2 scotches, Scotch and Coke. I don't drink Scotch straight.
Okay,
I'm not an aficionado who can taste the difference between, a $100 bottle of Scotch and a $40 bottle of Scotch. So generally I just buy whatever's on special because I know I'm going to mix it with Coke anyway. Or, or sometimes I buy rum and mix it with dry ginger because that's all right as well. But now I've lost my whole train of thought.
I agree with you. With beer, the thing about beer is the thing about beer is that's something where I really know how much I can take. With wine, it's usually different, and it's difficult for me to control. I may get a headache, and suddenly the day after, on the next day, I might have a hangover. I don't like that. I hate having a hangover. So beer is usually just a couple of beers, and then it's out anyway. It's not worth it anymore. I've had enough. As you say, I get tired. so it's
to really want to drink a lot, or tie one on, as you'd say, you've really got to be in a certain situation these days. That's really fluid with maybe. There's got to be a really good atmosphere or people around that you haven't seen or you really like or things like that. And then it can sort of flow on and you can sort of get into the vibe and drink a lot. It doesn't happen often anymore these days. But I find that like if I haven't seen people for a long time and we go out and things like that, it's a lot easier to lose count of, what you've been drinking and things like that. But it doesn't. It doesn't happen all that often, but you need to have the right atmosphere with the right people.
Absolutely. Like an Oktoberfest or something like that, right?
Yeah, something similar to that for sure. So,
Speaking
other
of,
than that, if you're just sitting around home, or
yeah, no, that's
you
different.
need to be out in a big
Yeah,
social
I
situation
agree.
these days
I agree.
for it to flow really well.
You just mentioned pouring Coke into your scotch. Did you know that the Austrians, they do this with red wine? They will take any red wine really and just pour Coke into it.
Wow, I've never heard that one. Like,
So
I've
red
had
wine and
Coke.
Coke is a thing there.
I've had Coke in Weissbier before in Freiburg. I think they call that a diesel or something.
Yeah.
But never Coke in red. That just sounds really wrong on so many levels.
Yeah, to me too. And I'm not a really big red wine aficionado,
Nah.
but still red wine and Coke, really? It's just,
For some reason, I could see lemonade, but Coke, not so much. Mineral water, yeah. Soda water, yeah. Any clear liquid for some reason.
That's the thing. The Germans, they like to water their alcoholic drinks, their alcoholic beverages. They like white wine and sparkling water. That's a wine schorle. They do it with beer as well, with lemonade.
Lemonade, yeah.
That's a Radler.
In Australia, they actually call it a shandy.
A shandy. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why it's called a shandy in Australia, but that's what they call a beer and lemonade in Australia, actually.
And then
in saying that, when I was younger, beer in the pub used to be really popular with a shot of raspberry cordial.
Oh, I can actually imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah, girls used to drink it. Like, it used to be a drink for the ladies because beer was obviously a lot cheaper than spirits or anything like that. So a lot of the ladies used to drink beer with a shot of straight red cordial in it just to sweeten it up a little bit. So
make it a little sweeter and fresher.
There's a lot of raspberry beers now floating around. So pretty flavored craft beer and stuff like that. So
it's and a new thing here is which I find a little odd, to be frank. It's beer and then just unsweetened mineral water, sparkling mineral water, just thinned out beer. I don't see the point of that, but that's just why.
Me neither. Like, I was never one to drink a lot of alcohol straight. Like, I can drink. Okay, so I drink a little bit of Wild Turkey honey bourbon because it's sweet. I can drink that on the rocks and sip it, but I'm not one for drinking, like I said, straight scotch or straight vodka or anything like that. Like, it's all a little bit
The Scotch is also very often very smoky, and that's just not for me. That's just not for me.
No. If anything burns and it doesn't taste good, well, why drink it? This is back to the core issue, doesn't it?
Like, that's what some people will call it, an acquired taste, which it certainly is. Yeah. So, anyways, it was really nice to have Willow on the podcast. Did how was she about this afterwards? Did you talk about it? Because it was really good.
Yeah, she said she enjoyed it. She liked the experience of it. She didn't want to listen to herself talk though, so she wouldn't listen to it again afterwards.
No,
but she said it was fun having a chat and talking about what she did. So she flew home last Friday, which I said we dropped her off before we went to Bendigo, and I think today she went to school for the first time in China to the university. So it was only just to get your classes and schedules and stuff like that. Yeah. But she was pretty nervous about it. She said, because Willow's she's a little bit anxious. She has a bit of anxiety about what other people think and and things like that. And so I tried to reassure her and say, hey, no one knows you over there, mate. It's just, it doesn't really matter, like, and things like that. So hopefully she'll get in there and make some friends and things like that.
Absolutely. And I mean, of course she's anxious and no matter how, I would be too, in a foreign country and starting in a foreign university. And of course, I mean, but it's going to be fine. She's clever. She's smart.
Yeah, she'll be right. And she lucked out. She got the whole row to herself on the plane. Like, that never happens to me. I can never even get an empty seat next to me, let alone a whole row. Like, and I can't count the amount of times I've flown with that child and she sat like maybe on the other side of the aisle and had a whole row or a seat empty next to her. It drives me insane.
There are some people who have that airplane luck.
I know. I've had it only ever once, and that was because the plane was half empty and the stewardess said, do you want to move down to that empty row of seats?
Yeah.
And, which was quite good because we were flying from Hanoi to Busan in South Korea and the plane left at like 1 a.m. in the morning or something like that. So I actually got to lay down like across the aisle of seats and
that's
have
cool.
sleep on this 5-hour flight. So that was quite good, but that's the last time I actually remember having a whole aisle to myself. I think that's pretty rare.
I usually get the seats with the least leg room, and I'm a fairly tall guy, so it's always. And then there are these little people sitting by the emergency exits. They can hardly even touch the floor with their feet, and I'm left somewhere down on I don't know, row 25 or something, and it's just crammed in between a lot of economy seats. Yeah.
Are you an aisle person or a window person?
I am an aisle person for that same reason, because then sometimes I can sort of stretch my legs
out.
Out into the.
I'm an aisle person for the same reason, and that worked well when we had kids because if you had a 4-seat across the middle, that was fine. If you had a 3-seat on the side, that was fine. But now it starts to pose a little bit of a problem because my wife is a window person. And I'm an aisle person, and there's not a lot of 2-seat configurations left on windows these days. They're mainly 3s.
So who wins that argument, Mark?
Well, I'm still in the experimental stage. We flew to Bali a couple of years ago and picked the aisle and the window and left the seat in the middle empty in hope that that no one would sit in it, but that was a spectacular failure. So someone was in the middle, which was okay. So we're flying to Phnom Penh in Cambodia in July with Singapore. And once again, we've come across this dilemma. So we did the same thing, picked the window and the aisle with a seat in the middle. So we'll see what happens there, see if anyone is in the seat. I picked the seats up towards the back because I thought they'd possibly fill up the plane at the front first. So if there are only any gaps, they may very well be up the back. But I got really lucky. On the way home on this trip, we're going obviously to Phnom Penh in Cambodia, and then we're going to Qingdao to see Willow. So on the way home, we've got to fly from Qingdao to Manila via Hong Kong with Cathay Pacific, and so it's 2 separate flights, but both they must use a smaller airline because it's a 242 configuration. So we got the 2 seats on the window, one on the window, one on the aisle, with no one in between, which was really good. And then from Manila to Melbourne, we're flying with an airline called Cebu Pacific, and the last 4 rows in the plane is also 2 seats only on the window. So I paid extra and booked them as well. So all the way home, we got lucky with the 2-seater, but so that makes it easy because she can sit on the window and I can sit on the aisle. There's no concern at all. But on the way over, we've got to go Melbourne to Singapore, Singapore to Phnom Penh, Phnom Penh to Shanghai, and Shanghai to Qingdao, which is where Willow lives, and they're all 3-seat combinations. So we've picked the seat on the aisle and the seat on the window and left the one in the middle spare, and we'll see what happens. So.
And where's Marley? She's not sitting in the middle. She's not coming with you.
She's not coming this time, so she's got school, so she's going to stay home we're going for about 17 days. She'll be 17 by then. So we figured it was about time to test the water and let her stay home by herself and see how she goes for that length of time. We're probably she'll be fine. We probably only left there for maybe 3 days before this, but we left when we went to Europe in 2023. Willow was 17, and we left her at home for about the same length of time. So it's sort of about that time where they need to learn to stay home by himself a little bit. I mean, obviously we leave food and money and everything for her. She's just got to get herself up and go to school and show a bit of responsibility and things like that, and look after herself.
That's a good exercise. Good exercise. House. Yeah, no, it's a good exercise.
Well, it's a good plan because, like I said, we want to travel 2027, just me and Bec, and Marley will be 18, just out of secondary school, and so she'll have to look after herself at some stage. She's more than welcome to stay in the house, which we said, because the house is paid for. She'll just have to chip in for the bills, but she can live here by herself while we're traveling for a bit. Yeah. So it's all good practice for her.
Absolutely. So talking about these airplanes that you're already booking the seats, because if you want to have like a booked or confirmed seat number and maybe a seat combination if you're more traveling together, this is what will cost you a fairly significant amount of money here in Europe if you want to make sure that you have a confirmed seat numbers. Is that the same thing there with you?
It depends which airlines you're flying on. So with Singapore Airlines, no, because they're obviously a 5-star airline. So your seats are generally complimentary, or there's a certain amount of seats on the plane that are complimentary. Like if you want the ones with the extra leg room, on the fire escape and things like that, then you obviously pay more. But other than that, the seat choice was complimentary. China Eastern we flew with as well. Seat choice was complimentary with them.
Okay.
As well. Cathay Pacific, the seat choice was complimentary there.
Yeah, there you go.
Well.
Yeah. This is what they should.
But with the other one, with Cebu Pacific, they did have complimentary seats, but if I wanted to secure them 2 seats by themselves down in the back, then I paid extra, but not much. I think I paid like $15 Australian a seat, so about 10 euros to get the seat that I wanted. So, but if you were to fly within Australia with, say, Jetstar, or if you fly around Asia with Vietjet or one of the AirAsia, you would certainly be paying for whatever seat selection that you wanted, for sure. So the cheaper the airline, you'll be certainly paying for the seat selection and the luggage and everything else that goes along with it.
Yeah, exactly. And this was the last time I flew was here in January. I flew just on a business trip to Copenhagen in Denmark, and it was just a routine business, really, on a Monday morning. It was like only business people, So I didn't book anything because I really didn't care, and I only had carry on with me. If I had booked a confirmed seat, it would have cost me I think it was close to 25-30 euros.
Yeah,
with Lufthansa.
They make money any way they can, don't they?
Yeah, and this was Lufthansa. This is a fairly.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah, if this is
my least favorite international airline.
Yeah, they've certainly dropped off the.
Like I said, I've flown some turkeys in my time, but Frankfurt to Singapore on Lufthansa rates up there with some of the biggest turkeys I've ever flown with.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, that's.
Like some of the prices are. It's sometimes a cheap plane is not really a cheap plane when you add everything.
That's the thing.
Like I know with, say, Jetstar, if you flew to, Vietnam or even Bali, you might get your flight from Australia for $300 one way, which is considerably cheap, but you'd be tacking on $100 at least for, your seat choice, 15 kilos of luggage and probably one scungy meal that they drag out for you, which would be a sandwich or something like that, and a drink. So, I know this sounds bad, but when there's this me and Bec traveling, I tend to pay more and fly, a decent airline like Cathay or Singapore. But when there's 4 of us flying, it makes you just can't afford. I just can't afford it.
No, and quite frankly, I know when the kids grow up and they get more accustomed to better service, better food and stuff. But as long as they're small kids, they really don't care, do they?
No, that's it. You don't when they're that small. So in the end, it just still costs more money. So when there's only 2 of us, we can afford a better class of hotel and a better class of airline. And quite honestly, the older I get, I want a more comfier seat on a plane.
Absolutely.
If I can actually afford it, because as we've said, everything from Australia is basically long haul to go anywhere out of the country. So I think, like we go Melbourne to Singapore is like 8 hours, and then Singapore to Phnom Penh in Cambodia is 3 hours, and then Phnom Penh to Shanghai is 4 hours, and then Shanghai to Qingdao is 3 hours. So,
Yeah.
so like, I actually chose it this way because I get sick of flying long flights. So 11 hours, 12 hours just annoys me. So I went, okay, let's try and break it up a bit and do a stop on the way to China and a stop on the way home from China. So I'm actually really excited about stopping in the Philippines on the way home. Even though we're only going to Manila, Manila's not my first choice of where I really wanted to go. I'd like to have went to one of the islands like Boracay or Palawan, or one of them ones with the nice crystal clear blue waters and white sands and things like that. But hey, we only had 3 days, so we're going to stop in Manila for 3 days and see what that's like, with the view of possibly going back to Philippines maybe at Christmas time and going to see some of the islands. But I've got throwing a lot of things around at Christmas time. I'm not sure where I'm going to go yet. I want to go somewhere for 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm going to Taiwan. I was thinking about going to Taiwan maybe, or Sri Lanka. Trying to pick out a few countries I haven't been. Like, I haven't been to the Philippines, so that will be another country to the list of places that I haven't actually been. So
it's amazing. I mean, when you say 8 hours of flight, I mean, if we fly 8 hours, we're I'm sure we can get from Munich to almost to Los Angeles in 8 hours. We can certainly get to New York in 5.5, 6 hours. So what's, for instance, the nearest overseas? That would be New Zealand, wouldn't it, from Melbourne?
Yeah, New Zealand. New Zealand's like 3.5 from Melbourne.
Yeah, and there you go.
Yeah, and then Bali. Bali's probably 6. So Singapore, I think, is 8 or 7. Might be 7.5 or something like that, depending on which way you fly. But it's overnight, so it's all right. It doesn't leave Melbourne until, I think, quarter to midnight, so 11:45 p.m. So hopefully I'll sleep most of it and wake up when they serve breakfast. But that brings you out to another point. Sometimes when you fly overnight and you fly with a good carrier, like I've had this before with Garuda Indonesia out of Bali, all you want to do is go to sleep, but they just want to wake you up and serve you meals because they're a good carrier, and meals are a part of the deal. Like, so, you leave Bali 10:30 with Garuda, flying Garuda before only because they're another airline that has the 2-seat combination on the side. So you would leave Bali, I think, with Garuda about 10:30 at night, and you've had a long day by then because you're, you've been up and packing and, and you've been buggering around and sitting at the airport and, might have had a drink at the airport, speaking of drinks, and you get on the plane. And I find as soon as I get on a plane, I feel really tired. I don't know if it's the pure oxygen or the, the more oxygenated atmosphere that you're in on a plane because they're, pumping air in all the time. And it makes me tired at the start. Yeah. And a lot of times I actually fall asleep before the airplane takes off sometimes. But I don't sleep for long. But so you're asleep for, an hour and then they wake you up for a meal and you go, this is like a 6-hour flight. So, and then, so you finally get back to sleep and then 2 hours out of Melbourne, they wake you up again for another meal. So basically you get a chance to sleep for maybe 2.5 hours out of a 6-hour flight because they're waking you up for, to feed you because that's the right thing to do because that's what you paid for. But it's not always the best thing for you when you're flying overnight. So I assume the same thing will happen with Singapore. Like, they'll either feed us when we get on and then again just before we land. Like, but I might be sleeping. So
here's an idea. Why don't they implement something that you could just wear like a sign saying, I refrain from taking my meals. I want to sleep. Do not disturb signs.
They do.
Yeah,
I think they do. But one of the bad aspect of sleeping on the aisle is that if they're bringing meals around, then they're passing it. They're standing right next to you and they're passing it over your head, so you're going to wake up anyway.
That's true. Yeah,
this is the issue. If you're on the window, like you could just stay asleep, and they probably wouldn't bother you, and you wouldn't feel them or hear them talking to the person over the top of you, saying, do you want chicken or do you want lamb?
Yeah, true.
You want a beer with that or a Coke? And you go.
Another thing I find annoying on long haul flights is once we flew from Munich to Bangkok and we flew over Dubai. It was with Emirates on the 380. Actually, it was quite interesting. It was quite enjoyable in that sense because it was a fairly new plane and it was.
I've never flown a 380.
Wow, well, that's really because very quiet. Just so gigantic. You could sort of sense that, there's some commotion now, and the engines are running at high speed, and then all of a sudden it just slowly takes off and leaves the ground. It's really like, wow. However, what's annoying is that on these long haul flights, any call over the intercom is brought in like 5 languages, and it takes forever. There's constantly something being announced over the intercom, and so it makes it impossible for you to sleep. It's just, even if you want to, like you say, go to sleep for a couple of hours, it's impossible, because then they announce that, the captain is welcoming you, and then they announce the food, then they announce the custom-free sales that they are offering, whatever.
Yes, duty-free, yeah.
Duty-free, yeah. So there's always something going on, and it's just annoying. And it comes in 5. I counted 5 languages. So an announcement will go on for like 5 minutes. They can't just make it short and nice and neat. It just goes on. I said to my wife, "Is this a joke? Because I have a feeling that they're constantly talking." It's just,
it's still my greatest wish to fly an A380. I've never been able to find one. I've never caught one anywhere. And the years to fly one are running out, because a lot of airlines, they're getting old. They haven't been made for the last 5 years. Speaking of Emirates has got the largest fleet of them. Emirates fly around 116 A380s still to today. And every month or so, they're calling on Airbus to remake a newer version of it, more fuel efficient, like the newer ones.
The thing is,
they stripped their assembly line years ago.
They're pretty expensive in terms of maintenance and just the upkeeping of them is expensive. So that's why they discontinued them.
I think Qantas have still got about 10 or 12 of them. They fly mainly the long haul as well. Singapore have definitely got a few, but a lot of them have parked them, like in airport graveyards, where they just sit, and there's no market for them, because obviously they don't make them anymore. So there's no aftermarket. The other day, some people stripped it down for economy size, and it's got like 600 seats in it or something like that in economy.
Wow.
Economy configuration only. Like.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, so it's it's a dream of mine. Hopefully one day I will get on one. I haven't flown since 2003. So yeah, and
it was an experience, I must say. It was apart from the constant intercom annoyance, it really was a pleasant experience. Emirates in general, I enjoy that. So it was from Munich to Dubai, and then again from Dubai to Bangkok, actually. So
I probably find Middle Eastern airlines are probably the best in the world, literally, I think.
Yeah.
When people ask me who's the best airline I've ever flown with, I'd always say Qatar, for sure. I've only ever flown with them once, but it's stuck in my mind through the seat comfort, the leg room, the staff, the food, the drinks, that was done on there was quite fine. And then probably Singapore after that. I've only flown them a couple of times, but they were always really, really good as well. So they're 2 airlines that I definitely really like flying with. Emirates was too long ago for me to really remember. I'm sure it was good, but it was back in 2003. So so it was a lifetime ago, when the only ever time I flew Emirates. And actually I flew Emirates to Munich. So from where was I flying from? From Sydney. So yeah, back in the day there. But
it's a while ago. Yeah.
It's a while, 21 years ago for sure. I'm trying to. Yeah. It is a long time ago, isn't it?
It is. Speaking of, I wanted to mention on Friday, Alex and I, my wife and I, we went to an exhibition or a fair. Munich is a huge convention city. There's always these
something on.
something going on. And this weekend was the free Messe, which is for travels. So there were stands from countries and travel agencies, but also a lot of outdoor companies. With outdoor equipment and camper vans and anything spare time, free time related, travel related, leisure time related. So that was pretty interesting because way back when we were traveling Australia and New Zealand, we were spending time in camp. I mean, we stayed. We lived in camper vans for like 6 months. A lot has happened, which was great to see. A lot has happened since then. This is probably 10 years, 12 years ago since we had that camper van, and a lot has happened. The comfort and safety things that they've implemented, it was really great to see. So I just wanted to mention that a lot of stuff is happening because we're talking about hotels and airplanes, but no matter how you travel as a family, there are many ways to do this, and
no right or wrong way.
No, there isn't. And I was just saying, a camper van, comfort is increasing there as well. I mean, it's just you always think of camping as a sort of a rather not too comfortable ways of travel, but really it can really be. It's something that is increasing in terms of the thickness of the mattresses and the driver's seat, whatever. I mean, it's all these little things, and it just makes it more and more comfortable, and I can certainly remember when we slept like 3 months on a very thin mattress in a camper van in New Zealand. I have a feeling I can still feel that in my bones to this day. I guess those days a similar thing wouldn't happen today because the mattresses are just getting thick. It's as I say, it's the little things. But it was nice
all
to see.
All about comfort when you get older.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And you could spend like 100,000 euros on a camper van on a camper van these days. Like not too big, but certainly with nice equipment in it. Like a shower cabin and a kitchen and everything. Meticulously fit into there's no millimeter left anywhere, but it was just fun to see, and we really enjoyed it. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that there's a thing like that going on. Anyway, as you say, there's no right or wrong in terms of means of travel and means of transportation. No. It's just really
as long as you do it.
As long as you do it, that's the main point. As long as you get out there, get out of your comfort zone. Sometimes, definitely. Yeah, and
everyone has their own way to go.
Exactly. So yeah, and go and get inspired.
Didn't book or buy anything there?
No, we didn't. We just got a couple of pamphlets and brochures, and just because one thing we saw that was really interesting is that on a normal family car, even down to like not too big a car, you could have now you can have on the roof, you can have a rooftop tent mounted on that, and there was a German company showing off some of their new models, and it wasn't too expensive. It's like 3,000 euros for a rooftop tent. That's actually not bad. I mean, that's and it was really easy to open up and set up, and
you see a lot of them in Australia. There's tons. A lot of people. Because Australia's big on, four-wheel drives and four-wheel drive utes or truck utes, as the Americans call them, or whatever they want to call them. There's a real lot of them rooftop tents all over the place here. So, which is quite good. People who love getting up the bush and as we call it in Australia.
Yeah.
And camping in the outdoors, it comes in handy. They just flip it open, folds up, or you can even get ones that fold from the roof and fold down to the ground, like gives you a bit of an annex as well. Yeah,
they showed them too. Yeah. But I guess if you're doing this thing in the bush, you wouldn't want to be too close to the ground, would you? I mean, because of wildlife, and I certainly wouldn't
get a big brown snake or something like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I went to work this morning and I went into where I work and I opened it because we have like a flywire doors in Australia, like the screen doors, and wooden door, so you can have your main door open and your flywire
for
door,
ventilation
ventilation and whatsoever. And I opened this door and I come face to face with like a huntsman that I reckon was about as round as what my hands were. Big spider, and I was like, whoa. He was just sitting on the door looking at me, so I didn't kill him. No, I got a broom and put him outside at the base of a tree and let him go. So, but it's always he was really big, actually. He'd been around for a while. He was a big spider for sure. Yeah. His legs were a good couple of inches long, I reckon, each. So
I spent 3 months in Australia and I didn't see a spider that big. I saw one redback in Victoria, but apart from that, I didn't see any big spiders. Up in Queensland, I would have expected to see some, but I didn't.
Huntsmen mainly live in. I don't know if they have huntsmen up north or whether they're just the Victorian spider or not, but I assume they probably do. But they just live in. They're generally indoor spiders, and they'll live up in a corner and they just catch little bugs and flies and things. So they won't bite you per se. They just scare you because they're
because of their size,
they're fairly big in size. yeah.
But they're not venomous, poisonous, are they?
No.
Well, then there you go. Yeah.
Which is quite good. But it's I don't know. It's just this is Australia. Australia has plenty of spiders, snakes, things that people assume will kill them, but not necessarily such. I must admit, I was out for a walk the other day and did see a snake. It wasn't a very big one. It was just a small one. We were out walking, not in the bush, like on a walking track, just on the edge of town. It was in like a wetlands area. There was some swamps in there, where birds nest and things like this. And it was, it looks like a little copperhead snake. Pretty venomous, but if you leave them alone, they leave you alone. We just came to a stop while it was crossing the path, and it just kept on crossing the path.
Okay.
Went into the other side, into the bush. So most things, they're probably as scared of you as you are of them. So if you let them go, like they're not going to turn around and lunge at your face or anything like that. They'll just generally walk off. So
we've got my wife's got a cousin living in Melbourne, and his wife. They're pretty much outdoor people, and they're sports people. They go, marathon running and stuff like that. And she's told us once she was out for a run in the morning, and on her usual path, because she came with fairly high speed, she didn't see the snake until it was right in front of her, and she really had to back off because it was quite aggressive. I guess that can happen, if you're not observant and careful.
Aware, I guess. Yeah.
And I guess
we were able to spot this one about 5 meters or before we actually got to it. So I can imagine if you did startle it.
Exactly, that was what happened. And when you're running, at least when I am running, it gets kind of meditative. So it's I'm just in my own
thinking about something else.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can guess that it could probably get pretty dangerous. And she said, if it had bitten her, she would have to hurry back.
Most
to
definitely,
get
depending on what sort of snake it was.
Yeah.
I think Australia has like 9 out of the top 10 most venomous snakes in the world or something.
There's a joke here in Europe saying, they're going to the moon is safer than traveling in Australia.
But TV shows love to make that out because people really, really enjoy that sort of stuff, like in America and Europe and things like that. But like I said, like I'm 50. I don't live in a city. I live in a country town, and I reckon I've seen a snake maybe half a dozen times in my life. Because there's no kangaroos bouncing down the street, that's for sure.
Yeah. Up in Queensland.
Shark.
Up in Queensland, we saw kangaroos on the side of the roads, bouncing around.
Like if I drive half an hour from here out into the bush, I'll certainly see kangaroos and wombats and things like that. If you go looking for them, you'll certainly find them. There's no worries about that. But yeah, as for venomous stuff, like you said, they are here, but they're not looking for you.
No. If you just mind your own business, they will mind their own business.
It's like when I hear people getting, eaten by sharks and things like that in Australia, and then there's a big outcry and they have to go and hunt the shark. I'm like, well, you're going in the water where these sharks live. Like, whose fault is it? You're going in their house and they're biting you or killing you. Who's stupid? You or the shark?
Exactly.
Let's be honest. It's just one of them.
The shark's been here for millions of years.
Yeah, most definitely. And there's people every year get killed by sharks in Australia. But hey, you're out there in the water with it. You've got to be somewhat responsible for that action, and you must know the chances of that could possibly happen. Anyone that goes in the ocean, knows that. And Australia's a big country with a big coastline, and lots of people swim in the ocean. Like I used to swim in the ocean, and when we were younger, our friends, we used to all go surfing and bodyboarding and things like that without a concern in the world. Up
north in Queensland, there were some mangroves or areas with water and a lot of bushes and trees and stuff. And when we were there, we met a guy who was swimming, in these waters every day with his dog. And he said sometimes, he never really worried about it, but he said, sometimes he did feel some movement below him. He said,
no, thank you very much.
Yeah. So
that a miss?
The crocs up there we were traveling there at a time when Anton was really just 3 years old. I never left his side when we were on a beach. I was always there because I had this fear that all of a sudden, a croc would come rushing out of the water and just
because we've all seen Crocodile Dundee when it jumps out of the water and grabs Linda Klosowski's water bottle and tries to pull her into the creek, haven't we? But no Paul Hogan with the big knife behind us sometimes, is there?
Exactly. So I just felt you can't be too safe, particularly with kids. It's just you've got
to be aware of your surroundings, don't you? And this is the thing. It's like there's a lot of people that drown, at Bondi every year, like foreigners that come to Australia and jump in the water. And, if you've got no real beach swimming experience, especially maybe beach conditions in Australia, I know beaches in northern Germany and stuff are more like lakes and ponds compared to what you obviously find in Australia a lot of the time. There's not so many rips and big waves and dumpers, and people, I think, come to Australia sometimes and think they can just wander out into the ocean and everything will be fine, and they can't read that there's a rip or anything like that going on, and before you know it, you're 50 meters offshore and struggling for air, and it's
true.
It's all over for you. So
it happens every summer in Denmark at the North Sea coast. The Germans, they're not used to, like you say, they're not used to ocean swimming.
Yeah.
And they go out and, in spite of all the warnings always issued, there's at least a handful of episodes every summer, sadly. And mostly, sad to say, mostly it is tourists that simply do not listen to what the locals are telling them.
That's it. They think they can swim in a swimming pool, and that's, the same as swimming anywhere. And, it's certainly not. But I couldn't think of anything worse than going on holiday and not coming back from that holiday because you did something silly, like that. And
true.
It happens, I guess, all the time, doesn't it? So was there an election in Germany?
Yeah, there was.
You got a new leader, is that right?
We have a new leader coming. Leader sounds so, authoritarian, but
what do they call him? He's not a prime minister like Australia.
He is
chancellor,
a chancellor. Yes,
chancellor.
And he's, it went from social democratic to a conservative leader now. But it will take in Germany, we're quite thorough in terms of, preparing the groundworks for government. Or coalition, as they call it here. So the parties will have to meet and see where they have where they can make agreements. So they're saying, probably not until Easter we won't have a finished government. So there will be the old government will continue their work until then. So there's going to be a shift here, and certainly it's gone to the right, quite a big leap to the right, which is sad, considering the history of Germany. However, I must say, and I say this to everybody that I talk to about this, the political establishment has in many countries in the world has become a little bit elitist. So the little man, the hardworking little man,
get left behind.
Yeah. So they go voting for those people where they feel they're hurt, who's got their back, and so it's out on the flanks to the left or the right, the extremists, left or right,
definitely,
because they will use the rhetoric needed for these people so that they feel they're heard. Yeah. So this is worrying. So, and I say this, really, whether or not you like Trump or not, I mean, the reason why he's in office now is pretty much due to the Democratic Party in the U.S. because they didn't do their job. No. So and the same thing happened here in Germany. Social democratic, which is pretty much in the middle of everything. And this is where I always say, real politics takes place in the middle always. Yeah. It's if you want to get something done, you go over the middle because that's where the most people are. So. But they just became too elitist. They just didn't hear the average man, the average person. They pointed fingers at anything sounding a little bit too extreme.
Blame everyone else.
So what happens if when you go into that voting cabin, close the curtain behind you, and you stand there with your in the voting booth with a list and a pen? Of course, you give the political establishment a finger, right? Yeah, that's what you do. So I guess that's what happened.
In Australia, we say that the policy doesn't pass the pub test. If it doesn't pass the pub test, it's no good. If the common man doesn't, if you can't walk into a pub with a policy in Australia and say, okay, this is what I think. And you can't get a unanimous agreement on it, then the policy doesn't pass the pub test, as we call it in Australia, and it's only something that user elitists would agree with, and not the normal man. And so a lot of political parties are suffering for that, and it's exactly the same in Australia as what you said. Like, more and more people vote regionally for who's telling them in this area what they want and what they think they can do, where I think a long time ago people would vote on a national level where they would think that was better, but now I think it's becoming more micro voting, per region, and if they think that they can do something for you in their own region, no matter which party it is, whether it's independent, I don't know but in our country it's Labor and Liberal and National, it's called, but National's not national, probably what you'd think. Nationals are farmers.
Okay,
farming federation party, pretty much on the land. So the Nationals and the Liberals form the coalition, much like you're talking about a coalition, and they fight against Labor, who are a standalone party, and traditionally they're the only three major parties in the country, and the Greens, but they're still pretty minor. So the Labor are in government, but there's an election due to be called any day because they're both wheeling out policies left, right, and centre, and probably spending billions of dollars that none of them actually have to spend. But that's what's going on, and and now it's all about border security and stuff because the Chinese just parked 3 naval ships off the coast between Australia and New Zealand in international waters and did some live fire exercises 2 days ago.
Really? Did they?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so Australia and New Zealand are all up in arms about this and had to divert planes, and things like that because China pulled up with 3 naval ships and gave them 6 hours notice that they were going to do some live ammunition training drills in between Australia and New Zealand. So that went down like a lead balloon.
It's a little sad because here in Germany we here in our household I would say we're pretty moderate. We just basically in the middle of because like I said if you want something done politically you go on the middle and find agreements there, and of course we've seen the world, we've seen what's going on in the world, so I consider myself to be fairly aware on the condition of the planet and stuff. So normally we would go and support green or some kind of social democratic party. The problem has been for the last 4 years, they have not been willing to compromise at all in anything. It's just, and that's not good either. That's just if you're not willing to because political work is one big compromise always. You have to, find common ground and make agreements with people, and it's a compromise. And the Greens didn't want to do that, so they went out on, they were just flushed out in the toilet just yesterday because they may have some political views that sound pretty reasonable, but if you're not willing to compromise at all, then you're not getting your work done.
Nothing's black and white in this world.
It isn't. So yeah, it's going to be exciting times ahead. Can't really say for the next couple of months nothing will happen, and then they will start working, and we'll see what happens. It's exciting times.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
most definitely.
Yeah. Exactly.
Very
So anyways, Mark, it's been fun. It's already
as always
way over an hour. You have a good week, and we'll be back.
I will next week. Next week I will be in somewhere different. So hopefully, hopefully I can.
Will you be able to do it?
I've got to move out because my kitchen's getting fixed, but we're just moving to a house up the road in a town about 5 kilometers away for 2 weeks while they pull our kitchen out that had water damage. So
you mentioned that. Yeah.
And I'll take this speaker, and we still should be able to tune in same time if you're free next week and record another one.
I should be. So anyways, if not, then we'll just coordinate. I should be definitely fine. Excellent. You say hello to the family, and
I will. You say hello to yours too,
and have a good week.
We will. Bye, everyone.
Bye.